Welcome to the SPE podcast, powered by the Society of Petroleum Engineers. You're listening to the June 2024 episode of the SPE President's Podcast with Terry Palisch, Creating Our Energy Future, the crucial role of soft skills in engineering. And now your moderator, Susan Howes.
Hello, I'm Susan Howes, President of Subsurface Consultants and Associates, and I'm pleased to join 2024 President Terry Palisch on his monthly podcast episode. This month, Terry and I will focus on the importance of soft skills for engineers and how SPE can help you in developing these critical skills. Thanks, Terry, for the invitation to join you.
Well, thank you, Susan. I'm excited for today. As I kind of thought about who I might partner up with for this episode, I thought you'd be a perfect fit. You obviously clearly lead a very successful international consulting firms, so you know the importance of soft skills. I think you actually promote them as well in SPE. Obviously, you're very active as a SP member, having served on the board in the Gulf Coast section and now on the ATC program chair. So I'm excited that you were able to join me. The listeners may recall last month we talked about petroleum engineering education, academia, the students, things like that. And while you'll certainly learn most or all of the technical skills there, sometimes we forget about the other skills that are necessary for success in the business and in life. And those are what we call soft skills. And of course, I'm an engineer. So if you're like me, soft skills maybe aren't really in our wheelhouse. So we maybe have to think a little bit harder about developing those skills. But I also thought, along those lines, I think as we develop the soft skills, a lot of it we get from volunteering. So I think we can talk a little bit about volunteering, of course, with SPE. It benefits not only SP, but you personally. So I think that's what we got on the agenda for today.
Wonderful. Before we get started, Terry, I know you have been busy, including the spring board meeting in Australia. Is there anything you'd wish to share about your travels?
Yeah, it has been a busy spring between IPTC and OTC Asia, the drilling conference, Canadian conference, and then I've been trying to get to as many student chapters and sections. It has been busy. We did just complete the spring board meeting. I was able to visit some of the sections in Sydney, Melbourne, and Western Australia. But it was a good meeting. We did close the books on fiscal year 24. We did have a net operating loss. It was less than it was last year. But the nice thing is that overall, we actually broke even when you combine it with the reserve fund earnings. And we don't want the net operating loss, but this is the first time since before COVID that we actually saw that. So we're excited about that. Just before the board meeting, we, of course, approved FY25 budget. We look at things on a 2-year cycle because of different events. And it looks like, based on the hard work that staff did, we should be break even starting the next couple of years. So that's exciting. It helps us be able to start really focusing on member benefits. And speaking of which, we saw some of the first results of the membership survey that was recently completed. We had a really good turnout for that. We'll be kind of releasing and relaying some of those results here soon. But we're currently digesting those results, trying to understand, what they mean. The bottom line is we'll use that to kind of help structure the strategic plan and use it as a guide for future programming and offerings. And then, of course, I'm sure as most people saw, we also just approved and saw the new slate of nominees for the board. So we're excited for that. There was just so many qualified candidates. So that was exciting. And I just want to offer my congratulations to Jennifer Miskimmins and the rest of the nominees.
Yeah, wonderful news. I had the chance to congratulate Dr. Miskimmins in person last week. So she's very excited about her opportunity. So getting back to our subject, what are soft skills? Yeah,
I think that there's probably some similarities, but there's probably some that people probably disagree what we call them. For me, I'm just going to call them the non-technical skills. The two most popular probably people think of is, just their technical writing and, everything that goes along with that, as well as, speaking and presenting. But I think sometimes we need to remember that leadership skills is another good one, another big one, actually. So the skills we need to lead teams, lead businesses. And then another one I like to put in there is our networking, collaborating. We really have to learn to work together as teams if we want to really excel and develop technology. So, I kind of think of it as those 4 items.
Wonderful. And I know you have an interesting story about soft skills from early in your career. Can you share that with us, please?
Yeah, when I speak out in public, I usually say that I have this secret, which is probably, I guess, not going to be a secret anymore. But, when I first started in the industry, I worked for Arco, Alaska. And as a part of your training program, you kind of go around to the different disciplines. And I still distinctly remember when I did my facility engineering tour, my supervisor at the time, a great supervisor, but she basically told me on my performance evaluation, you really have terrible speaking skills and you really can't write. And I thought, well, and that's why I'm an engineer. But at the time, I didn't think it was important. But certainly over my career, I think I've improved those. But that was when the first time I was really told, look, you really need to work on those.
And so why are soft skills so important to engineers? Sometimes they're called critical skills.
Yeah, I think they're critical skills because that's what they are. Maybe it might be easier if we just kind of break down each of the 4 individually. Technical writing, as engineers, we can have some really good ideas, develop some really great technologies. Maybe we get the next best thing of whatever, but how do you memorialize and preserve your work for others? How do you convey it to your colleagues so that they can maybe apply it to their challenges? Or, what if somebody wants to implement your technology? How do we instruct them to do that? So, we need to write it down. It needs to be readable. You need to be able to follow it. It needs to be able to explain what you need to do. One of the things we talk about in my SPE abstract class, we start with the importance of why to write a paper. Obviously, we talk about writing SPE papers, but that's one of the first things we talk about. Actually, one of the things we also mentioned in that class, and I think that's something people don't think of a lot, is technical writing. We think of technical reports, documenting a specific idea, maybe an SPE paper, but really, every time you write an email at your company to colleagues or what have you, that's actually technical writing. You should really treat that as if, you and I, when we were, of course, starting out, we had what we called memos, that pieces of paper that went around the office. And, we spent a lot of time thinking about what to write. And now we write emails. And so we really need to treat emails that way as well. Moving into speaking and presenting, again, we need to be able to communicate our ideas effectively. I had a supervisor at Arco again who may be one of the smartest people I ever knew, but was a basket case in front of people during a presentation to the point that it was actually distracting. And I've seen many engineers, particularly people, those that have really good SPE papers, great ideas, but pulling a PowerPoint together is a struggle, and it actually ends up hurting their idea. So speaking and presenting are critical. Leadership. While I think technical writing, speaking, and presenting, they're all critical skills that everybody needs to develop. Not everybody's going to want to be a leader. And that may not be for everyone. So leadership, you could argue, is not necessary. But certainly if you decide you ever want to manage a team or lead an organization, or perhaps maybe you want to run your own company, then leadership skills are going to be critical to be successful. As you know, there are plenty of books out there that talk about these types of skills and how important they are. And then I guess if we move into networking, collaboration, depending on your job, there's certainly going to be times where you might work by yourself on a project, but I'm going to say that most people will work in teams. You may remember years ago, we talked about these multidisciplinary teams and, how we work together. And, there's a lot of teamwork books out there where they talk about different personalities and things like that. So there is some skills that it takes to basically be in a high functioning team. I'll just add that, unlike when I was in school, I don't think most skills were teaching soft skills. But, a good friend of mine, you may know her, Deb Hempel Medina, we used to work together in SPE Dallas, and she actually started a class at UT Austin where she was teaching just these very skills. I was also kind of a bit jealous of her because she was teaching a class that I would have loved to have taught. I actually went down there and guest taught for her a couple of times as a guest speaker. But, that's how important I think these skills are. I developed a class for it. And I just think they're really important.
And when you received that constructive feedback that you were not a good writer or speaker, how did you address that gap? How did you deal with that constructive criticism?
At the time, I'm sure I probably just blew it off and said, okay, whatever. But, so I don't know that I ever really set out to address it, but I can tell you that, through, my involvement, particularly with SPE and practice, I improved. I started writing papers. And when I wrote papers, and I still do this, I asked people who I respected and trusted and to review the papers and critique them. I also have served on the program committees. So I've read abstracts, I've read papers, I've seen good ones, I've seen ones that needed improvement. Of course, I've made many presentations. A lot of that was just trial and error. But, the key every time was practice. And that's one of the things that I always explain to people is you just really have to practice. I'd say it all kind of came together when Danny Bell, who was the Dallas section chair, asked me to teach how to write SPE paper class, and actually talked about, asked me to teach the soft skills, which again took to Deb's class as well. And, I think back at, how I was told I wasn't very good at that. And now I was being asked to teach a class about it. So, I didn't set out, but fortunately, I was involved with SPE, and that helped.
And how can SPE members use SPE to improve their soft skills?
Well, similar to what I did, I would say, first of all, when it comes to the technical writing, I would say, look for opportunities to write papers. There is a lot of training modules. I've talked about the abstract writing course I have. I know Jeannie Purdue's got some great technical writing skills classes on the SPE training site. So, I'd look for that. I would make presentations, maybe start at your local section, present a topic for them, maybe go to some, get into some workshops, conferences. Obviously, if you write a paper, you'll be asked to present it. Maybe start with, a regional conference, which maybe not quite as intimidating as one of the more flagships, but, that can help that. The other thing that's interesting is I would attend your section meetings, look for ways that you can volunteer, serving on committees. Obviously, we've talked about this before, but if you do that, someone's going to ask you to lead something at some point. So then you have the opportunity to work on your leadership. That's the local section. I also would encourage people to get involved in the international committees. Then you start learning not only to volunteer and lead, but you also start learning how to network and collaborate, not just with people in your region, but across the world. And then, of course, you'll build your network that way as well. And, I just want to point this out. And there's been times when I've been asked to lead things and I'm thinking I'm not really sure I'm qualified for it. But, I just want to say that if somebody asks you to lead something and you're uncomfortable, that's probably a good thing. Accept it. That's how you learn. That's how we get better. Get out of your comfort zone. And I think you'll be well off by saying yes.
So when you mentioned volunteering, why is volunteering so important, particularly in SPE?
Well, so first of all, SPE is a volunteer organization, so it's critical for SPE to have volunteers. But, moving more towards, why it's important to you personally, which is, I think, the main reason a lot of people do this, is first and foremost, I think your professional development. We talk about this with the gym membership, but you professionally develop your soft skills by typically volunteering. You get to network. I've personally gotten professional fulfillment out of this. Leading like you're doing now, leading ATC program committee and seeing that come to fruition just provides a lot of professional fulfillment. Those are the things that you get personally out of it. And then, of course, I think we do have a bit of an obligation to give back, particularly as we get to senior level. I mean, we've all gotten a lot out of SPE and out of our careers, and I think we can give back. And what I always find is I get a lot more in return than I give for giving. It's amazing. But I also want to make sure we point out that volunteering at both the local and the international level. I mentioned it a little bit before, but by volunteering at that international level, you now start meeting your network grows substantially. And, I think, as we all know, building that network is very important to your career and, development, your professional development. So I think that's the biggest reason why I think it's important.
You mentioned times when you were asked to serve. How does an SPE member find volunteer opportunities?
Well, first, I'd say select your section where you live and make sure you're affiliated with that on your SPE membership, and attend meetings as often as you can. You'll find there will be opportunities there to volunteer and to help. I would recommend joining at least one technical section. Maybe it's in your field of expertise. Maybe it's something you want to learn. You can, usually there's going to be things that those technical sections are doing that you can find ways to volunteer. And on, the international level, frankly, go into your SPE profile and you can select that you want to be notified of volunteer opportunities. And you will then get notifications from SPE whenever there's a volunteer opportunity for you. And then, obviously make sure you read those SPE emails, but we'll just respond to the ones that looks like they might be an opportunity for you.
Wonderful. And in the end, this all seems to go to the heart of your gym membership analogy, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I like it. But, the gym membership, of course, again, when we join a gym or a health club for our physical well-being, and I think we think of SPE as our professional well-being, and a lot of what we get out of SPE and what I've gotten out of SPE has been, these soft skills, the leadership skills, the volunteering and, professional fulfillment. If we want a healthy future, we need to make sure we take care of our health. And if we want a long and rewarding career, then we need to take care of our professional health. And I think that, just like always, the more you put into it, the more you get out. I mean, ultimately, this is how I think we can each individually and collectively create our energy future.
So what's up next for you in July?
Well, let me say, first of all, Susan, before I tell us what's up next, I want to thank you for joining me today. It's been great. I know this is one of your passions. And also, I just want to thank you for everything you do for SPE. I mean, the Gulf Coast section, the board, I know you're running the ATC program committee and have helped me on a lot of the opening general session and the panels. And then, of course, you do a lot of work with students and professionals. So thank you for all you do. As far as next month, I'll have about 2 months left in my term. We'll start to looking at tying things up. I think I'm going to talk to Simon Seaton, the CEO of SPE. He'll be, about 3/4 of the way almost through his first year. And we'll talk a little bit more about the member survey, what we learned from that, maybe where we're headed, how that fits into the strategic plan. I also want to talk about something that's near and dear to you, and that is ATC 2024. Some of the cool changes we've got in store for that to help us celebrate the 100th anniversary. And then maybe we'll just touch on a few other outstanding member benefits that we haven't covered yet. But I think that's what we're going to do. So hopefully everybody tunes in next time. And again, thank you, Susan, for joining me today.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Take care.
We hope you've enjoyed this edition of the SPE President's Podcast, Creating Our Energy Future with Terry Palisch. New episodes are posted at the beginning of each month, complete with transcripts, on the Journal of Petroleum Technology website at jpt.spe.org.